Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoiler-free review of The Traitor Baru Cormorant by Seth Dickinson. This was my Patreon VIP pick, which is a title that I'm gonna change because I don't really know what else to call it. But basically, along with a lot of other polls where my Patreon supporters get to vote for different books that I'll read or content I'll do or whatever, every month also all of my Patreon supporters get entered into a kind of raffle for getting to pick one book that I'll read off my physical TBR. So I pick one person a month, randomly, and that person gets to pick any book off of my TBR for that month, and I have to read it, and I review it. How come whenever I want to start filming there's just like noise and ruckus outside? Why is that a thing? So if you're interested in being a part of my content in that way, I will link my Patreon on the screen. This book was chosen by Hannah, so thank you, Hannah. This is the first book in an adult fantasy series, and it follows our main character of Baru, and she grows up in this nation that has been conquered by another nation called the Masquerade, or another political system kind of called the Masquerade. And the Masquerade is a very intricate political organization, and early on in her life she kind of gets taken under the wing of a patron within the Masquerade and kind of raised within their ideals. But she wants to use everything that she's learned to avenge her home. She is not a noble or anything like that. She just loves her people and her home so much, and she wants to use the power that she now has to avenge her people. So first off, let me get to the world building. This is a very dense political world, and you're really kind of just thrown into it. At times it is very kind of info dumpy. I did read a review where somebody said that they felt like they were reading the Wikipedia page for this world a lot, and that's kind of how it is. I don't really necessarily feel like I got emotionally connected to a lot of the things going on in the world, but it is very dense. There's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of moving parts, and it really is about the political maneuvers that everyone is making constantly. I will say that I don't really feel like I said, that I'm very attached to this world, and I don't really feel like I get a sense of what this world looks like. It's a fantasy world, but there's not magic, and it's sort of a science-based fantasy world, so there's mentions of things like they know what cancer is, and they have dentists, and there's different things like that, but then there's also this, it definitely feels more fantasy world based, so I don't really feel like I get a sense of what these characters look like or how they dress or like what their daily surroundings are like. Like, it's very unclear to me. But next, when we talk about our characters, Baru, as our main character, is Slytherin as fuck. So she is ambitious and cunning and uses her mind to control things. She's very smart. She's kind of a savant with, in this particular instance, she does through accounting, which is another interesting take on things, that we have this main character who has a lot of power through being a accountant. And she says so many things that I really related to as somebody who is very ambitious myself, and ambition is one of my, like, core values. But she says things like, sometimes there's a line that she says at one point about looking at the world and being kind of fearful that things are out of her control within it, and that she isn't able to quite manipulate the situation as much as she would like to, because that would make her feel safe. And as somebody who's ambitious but also has anxiety, man, did I relate to that. Baru is a character that also loves other women. In this world, they call them, I think, tribalists or something. I forget what the name that they use. They don't say lesbian. But she is a character that loves other women, and in this world, the Masquerade specifically does not approve of homosexuality, so they are trying to, like, eradicate that. They torture people, etc., etc. It's just not something that's allowed within the Masquerade, although she was raised in a polyamorous relationship with a mom and two dads. So that is one of the things, that's part of her cultural background and something that she really values and loves, and there's a lot of love there within her family. And she, again, loves women. A lot of people recommend this to me also because there is a women loving women relationship in here, but I will say that if you're going into this book for this, you're really not going to get a lot of it. It's not necessarily explicit on the page. It's very hinted at. It's very, like, fade to black. It doesn't really come into play until much later. There's a lot of, like, angst and, like, will they, won't they kind of thing, but if you're going into this for, like, a female romance, not necessarily something that I would recommend, and also it's not necessarily the happiest of stories either. So this is not very romance focused at all, and like I said, it's a lot more hinting at, you know, kind of avoiding than anything else in this book. So there are a lot of interesting side characters here. Like I said, that it's very politically driven. There's a lot of moving pieces. But having said that, although they are very interesting, I feel like I wasn't able to get attached to really any of them. And I just didn't feel like I got, I know them. You know, like, there's so many of them, and there's so many moving pieces, and there's so many personalities, but I just don't feel like they were fully fleshed out enough for me and that I was able to get fully attached to any of them, besides Baru. Lastly, we'll talk about the plot. As far as the plot and the writing, there's a lot of very dry descriptions of the political machinations and maneuvers that are happening throughout the book. There are a lot of descriptions of battle sequences, for example, or just things that are happening in other places, like here's this event that then caused this domino effect and such like that. And it just, I felt very removed from it. I felt very distant and like there was a wall up there and that I couldn't really get invested in what was happening, or that I didn't really feel emotionally tied to it, or even really understand necessarily the importance of all of it. It's just very, like I said, very dense political and war battle type descriptions throughout this that just left me feeling like I didn't care that much. Also, there's sort of a political twist at the end. I mean, there's maneuvers going on constantly, and that I kind of saw coming from the beginning. Again, I'm not sure if we're supposed to see that that's what's coming or not, but that is what I kind of foresaw, so it just made it so like we're moving towards this inevitable end that I'm already kind of seeing, and I'm not overly invested in it either. So overall, I was kind of bored through a lot of this. Like I said, I really like Baru as a character. I like that it's focused around a character who's really ambitious, but overall, although that I think a lot of people will enjoy this and have enjoyed it, I think the political nature of it was too dense and dry. You kind of need one or the other for me, and it was just too much of both of those things, so that I felt very distant and not connected to this story. So ultimately I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. Solid, right in the middle kind of book, but I don't think at this point that I'll be continuing with the rest of the series. I know it's very well loved and some people are probably gonna be a little like mad about that, but I just wasn't really invested in it, and I found myself just like dragging my feet through this book, and I don't want to drag my feet through a series. At the end of this book, I wasn't really pulled towards like, oh, what's gonna happen next? So I don't think that I will be continuing with this series. So comment down below, let me know what you thought of the Traitor Baru Cormorant. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.